Hey everybody, welcome to Tuesday Live, and man, things are happening. People like us have been trying to warn everybody. Obviously, you pay attention, so you get the warnings. But things are really happening. I have my special guest. Hasn't been on here in a while. Man, I'm so excited to have him back. Please welcome Monkey. Monkey, great to have you with me today. This is cool.
Yeah, good to see you, man. And I'm glad I'm actually on. I've been sick for about 4 months, so it's been just been refocused on a lot of other stuff right now, just trying to get well and just got in the queue to get back on the show here. So thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you. I know, I felt bad asking, everybody, we were over in Israel together, and Monkey hasn't been well since the last time he was with me. So I hope this isn't a sign of anything.
Yeah, I'm doing great. And I feel like I'm on the mend. So this is good stuff.
Well, you look good. The picture behind you looks very appealing to me because pretty much we've only had cold weather and snow where we live, which we're going to talk about. So this is what we're going to be talking about, everybody. We're going to be talking about Operation Paperclip. Some of you are familiar with it. Monkey's going to be filling in the blanks. We're going to be talking about NASA. We're going to be updating things, and we're going to be talking about weather modification, amongst other things, depending on how much time we have. Of course, we want to take your questions and everything. So it is going to be off the charts today. And if you haven't done so already, if you want to chat on the app, you just got to create an account. That's by filling in your email. Pretty simple to do. You can join us on the chat. But man, you can also share this. I would start sharing it with all your friends right now. Get them to log on. And it's live on Roku too. So with that, okay, Monkey, we're going to show a quick video. This video is about 1 minute long, everyone, and it's okay. I'm going to tell you, it's a commercial. All right, I have a new book coming out. Monkey encouraged me, show it to everybody. Yes, so go ahead and check it out, and we'll be back on about 1 minute to talk about all these other things. So let's roll this. I had a conversation with my dad. He used to work for a company called Teledyne back in the early 1960s. And he was invited to a party in the Hollywood Hills. He said all the bigwigs were there, Henry Singleton and so forth. And he said an individual showed up and they're standing in the backyard looking into the city of Los Angeles. See all these lights in the city out there and all the people that are out there. Someday, we're going to be able to control everyone. And he wasn't referring to just Los Angeles. Everybody is going to be identified. It's called the mark of the beast. Choosing the mark is really choosing to either live or die. There's no escape from the system.
Available in paperback and ebook. Get your copy today at markingthemasses.com. And watch the full interview with author.
So, where am I? Well, there I am. So there you have it. I mean, I'm excited to see what the Lord's doing. So there you have it, everyone. Yeah.
Yeah, no, hey, I'm telling you, just looking at the cover alone is got me very intrigued. I went straight out and pre-ordered mine, so I can't wait to read it. This looks like it's going to be a really good book.
You do realize I'd give you one for free.
Yeah, I know. I probably could have asked, but I'm not like that.
You didn't even have to ask. It was just going to come in the mail. So
yeah, you can still send it. I'll take it. That's fine. I'll put it in my collection. I've got a lot of books from folks that have signed stuff and sent it to me. So that'll be cool.
Very cool. Thank you. By the way, the cover on that, I think prophecy people and people who follow your videos would really appreciate this. The cover on it was designed by AI.
Oh, I don't doubt it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I look and go, man, it's just kind of a crazy stuff. So I mean, because the whole topic and everything. Okay. So enough of that. I want to get to why you are here, besides the beautiful picture that makes me feel warm inside. Let's start here. Operation Paperclip, and then we're going to move through NASA. We're going to move on through weather modification. I think you're going to help me wrap my mind around a whole lot of things today, along with our viewers. So take it away. Operation Paperclip, was it, well, I know it was legitimate, but just for us, for everybody watching, what was it, and what has come of it, and how did we get to NASA and so forth?
Yeah. So, well, first you have to back up a little bit and recognize that it started out before you had Operation Paperclip. You had a top secret program that was called PO Box 1142. And that is basically how the program began. And what that is it was a location here in the United States that was used to basically wine and dine POWs, people that were captured in war. They would bring them over. They would basically treat them really nice, become really good friends with them, and then they would get their secrets out of them. And so that is how it started. And then from that, the next step was actually Operation Paperclip. And Operation Paperclip was where they basically went in and recruited German scientists that were running the Nazi camps. So basically the guys that were doing experiments on people inside of the concentration camps. And they brought them over here to the United States, and they divided them into three little groups that they sprung out from there. Okay, so the first one was going to be what they call DARPA today. It was actually ARPA at the time, but it's now DARPA, which if you're not familiar with that company, it is an extension of the DoD. It's basically their think tank. Kind of think of it like Skunk Works for Lockheed Martin, right? DARPA, they were basically internet driven. They were the ones that designed the internet and everything else. So a bunch of these scientists went over to DARPA. Now, if you're familiar with DARPA, they're the ones that created Facebook, Instagram, Google, LinkedIn, you name it. Almost every social platform that we have in our hot little hands today was created by DARPA. Okay, so that was the first piece. The second piece was NASA, and they went over. That's because we needed to learn how to, have a rocket program, right? And so Hitler and his cronies were working on the V2, I think it was, and so they had a pretty good feel of how to do, how to build rockets. And so we brought them over. We created DARPA and NASA. And then the third leg of this, which many people don't know, is that we sent a bunch of guys over to Ukraine that basically stood up a stronghold with our CIA in Ukraine. And that's why we have such an interest in Ukraine today. Because we have been there ever since. They stood it up I think it was around 1948, and the documents are out there. You can go Google it, and you can pull it. It'll give you all the intel about. It's in a PDF form. It'll give you all the information you need to know about what we did over there, what we're doing over there. But it never went away, and so all three of these I don't know, vehicles, I guess you could call it, exist today, right? You've got DARPA, you've got NASA, and then, of course, you've got the CIA, and now you see why there is such a interest in Ukraine, why we continue to pump money into Ukraine, because there are a boatload of things over there that we have a vested interest in and that we don't want to go away. So
I'm guessing also now you have me wanting to ask all kinds of questions that you bring Ukraine in here. I mean, we know about the bioweapon labs. Apparently there were a lot of them. You probably know exactly how many. Yeah. But I've been convinced for a long time that there's all kinds of hidden things that are over there that we don't want falling into the hands of the enemies, or we don't want them falling into the public's understanding from things that Biden's been up to and other things the government's been up to for a long time, which, maybe we'll have enough time to get into that. Now, this is also even more interesting to me now that you mentioned these things based on, and listen, we weren't going to talk about my book at all, but I'm just thinking about this conversation I had with my dad about him and the tech industry in 1960 and these guys from NASA that came over, and there were only a couple of them. He said they were all the bigwigs, though, because it was a very small company when my dad was there with Teledyne. 5 people when he started.
Yeah.
And when he's talking about, hey, we're going to control the masses of the people, meaning the whole world, he said he got a very dark feeling. Everything was good up until that point. So when you bring in DARPA and the tech industry and NASA, I mean, I'm looking at all this going, this is just off the chart stuff.
Yeah, it's not a coincidence. No two ways about it. And oh, by the way, the guys that started out over at DARPA were the guys that they picked and basically pulled over and created, pushed them over to head up NASA. Now, what they didn't do is they didn't let the German scientists run the organizations. They had a U.S. head over them, but these guys were very, very involved in every aspect of it. And you think about it today, everything that we have from a social media perspective, all of the intelligence gathering, everything that we do and the tools that we use are all kind of hand in hand with what NASA does, right? They put the satellites up. They've got all the things that are high altitude that we work with. It's kind of crazy to see how they have all just kind of meshed together into this big system that we're dealing with today, right? You can't avoid it. You can't hide from it. They know more about you than you know about you. It's absolutely crazy.
Wow. And then, you look at this, okay, so you have these Nazis that are brought over. This is what the beginnings of this really is, because of need to have the rocket technology and so forth. I think most people think, okay, when World War II ended, Hitler's dead. They went to South America, right? Which a lot did. South America, was it Venezuela or Argentina?
I think a little bit of both, actually. They're even down in Puerto Rico, and I didn't know that. I was surfing down there one time, and they were talking to me like I was a local, and I'm like, I don't look anything like a local. Why do they think I'm a local? And it's because they had so many Germans down there. They just thought, blonde hair, blue eyed, that I was Spanish speaking German. So they've got a lot there too. So they kind of scattered everywhere. The scientists, it wasn't like they just had 4 or 5 scientists that came over. It was 1,600.
Wow.
But I hear there's classified data that has been released to the public. I can't seem to find it. But I've heard that number is more, 60, 70,000 people came, in through that program.
60 to 70,000.
Yeah.
Holy
That's what I heard. The real number was actually super high.
Wow. So, okay, when you look at our government right now, and there's obviously so many different shenanigans that are going on. So you really see, there is this influence that is so dark. You start to look at Operation Paperclip, all the whole tech industry, but you look at the government, you look at people that are in power, and to me it appears this has influenced what began back then, has influenced every branch of America, the government, the universities, the leaders that are in different places of position.
Yeah. Yeah, it sure has. And actually, if you really go back, you look at Daniel, I think it's 7, Daniel 7.
Daniel 7 has the 4 beasts, then out of the 4th beast with the
the 4th kingdom, that kingdom that they describe. But if you look at that and you think about what the word Reich means, that means kingdom. So what are they all talking about? You get these guys that are out on the world stage now, and they're talking about the new world order, right? And they're really talking about this 4th kingdom, because remember, the Third Reich was Hitler and Nazi Germany in World War II. But now what they're saying is they're putting out this they can't call it a Reich. If they called it the Fourth Reich, it'd be flags going everywhere, right? So instead, it's this Fourth Kingdom, or this New World Order that they're starting to talk about, and that's really where it kind of makes you stand up and go, "Whoa, this is." Daniel, his prophecy is pretty old, and for him to throw out there something about a 4th kingdom, and then now you see these guys walking around talking about this fourth Reich, or this 4th kingdom, and it like I said, it never went away. That whole mentality, everything that they've been doing, you thought that World War II ended it, but the reality is they just scattered like cockroaches.
Wow. Scattered like cockroaches. What an excellent description. So I think Klaus Schwab calls it the fourth industrial revolution.
Yes.
He's just cloaking it with that.
Exactly. It's all it is. Yeah. It's being cloaked. Same message, same in-state goal. It's just being cloaked. It's being called something else so you don't really recognize it. It's, if you know your Bible, it definitely would get your spidey senses up where you'd go, wait a minute, this is all sounding really familiar. Where have I heard that?
Yeah. Man, it's just becoming more and more fascinating the more you're talking. So I'm looking at this, the Fourth Reich, the Fourth Industrial Revolution, Daniel chapter 7, the Fourth Kingdom, and how it's described there in Daniel 7, it has huge iron teeth. It devours and it crushes everything. It's just totally conquering. With that, this kingdom of Daniel 7, it morphs into the 10 kings, the 10 horns, and then out of them comes the 11th. And we are watching that, and everything you're talking about, from DARPA to NASA to Ukraine and the CIA, it's all part of this morphing system right now. This is amazing.
It's crazy, and it's not that far off. I mean, the technology and capabilities exist today. It's just you're looking for that one conduit that pulls it all together, and that's where I think is going to be the big that's maybe that happens after we're gone, or maybe we start to see that technology that kind of brings it all together. And it could be actually AI that pulls it all together, because remember, it's a smart system, right? And so it's pulling and feeding from all kinds of different various social platforms, technology that's intelligence technology that's over our heads, watching us every day. We talked about the balloons. That's what I think. I had a little bit of a laugh over this, because we were saying, the Chinese are putting spy balloons over our heads, and what are they looking at? Yeah, from a national security standpoint, it's pretty bad. But the reality is, in my tracker, in my watch list that I look at every single day, I've got 42 U.S. military intelligence balloons that are deployed all over the place. There's 5 or 6 over the United States that I can track. The rest of them, they went up and then they went dark. And so I know they're all over the place. So when I start hearing other countries talk about, it's got to be Chinese, we see a Chinese balloon up there, I'm thinking, it's probably not Chinese, it's probably us. And they want to get eyes off of these pretty quickly. So, but yeah, that's just another one of the tools. And a lot of that technology is made possible because of NASA.
Wow, this is wild. Okay, I still want to get to the weather modification, but since you brought up balloons, I want to get your opinion.
Yeah.
So the story, all of a sudden we started hearing about when the balloons went up. I think I was in Mexico at the time all this was going on, so I wasn't checking the news as much as regular. But all of a sudden I remember reading about, they shot down UFOs. And I put together my own thoughts, but I'm curious as to, I think there's lots of distractions out there in the whole bit. Yeah. What are you thinking is you heard the narrative coming out and it changing? It was changing like every 10 minutes.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy is I think the first one was definitely a Chinese balloon that made it over the United States. But then I think the others, they very quickly went quiet on them. So, there were reports from F-22 pilots that said it made their all of their equipment go haywire when they were close to it, which is really unusual. And then other ones were like, it looked like an octagon shape. That was the one they shot down, I think, over Michigan or something. But I heard a lot of different reports. One saying that it was hobbyists that had balloons up that they blasted out of the sky. So it's really it's the lie is ever changing, and so that's how you just can't keep up with it. Then I also heard Flashbang come out onto the stage at the White House. I say the stage. I guess it could be a stage.
It is. But for him, we're not real sure what it is. It's some kind of theater.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but he came out, to the podium there and basically said that, that it wasn't Chinese spy balloons. But then he had a hot mic when he got behind the curtain there, and he basically said, "Do you think they bought any of that?" And he used different term than that. This is a family show, so I'm giving you the clean version. So he was lying to us about it. I don't buy in on the whole terrestrial thing, right?
Yeah.
You have to remember, UFOs doesn't mean little green men every single time, right? What it means is it's just unidentified flying object. They don't know what it is, so it's unidentified. So that from that aspect. Now, from the green man perspective, I think, in my opinion, it's probably demons and not little alien guys coming from another galaxy far, far away. But
yeah, I would totally agree with you on that. Also, along those lines, I have a really difficult time. You're a military guy. You could answer me and tell me I'm crazy if you want. But I'm looking at this going, okay, so if it's the little green men coming from some galaxy far, far away, nobody's going to be able to convince me, well, maybe you can, that they have the technology to come here, but they don't have the ability to escape a missile that flies at them.
Right.
I'm thinking, I kind of find that hard to believe. So I never bought in any of that. I believe there's a distraction. If there is any legitimacy to the UFOs, it's demons. Or exactly what you said. They're flying objects created by someone. We just don't know what they are at this time. But the other option is some kind of demonic presence that people are seeing. Other than that, I just don't believe the little green men coming from another galaxy far, far away. I can't wrap my mind around it as being true. Are you familiar? Well, you probably are. Operation Bluebeam.
Yeah.
Is that real?
I'm familiar with it.
Do you know if there's any real truth to it that the fake UFOs by, I think, holograms or something like that, to be deceptive, where they're just fake?
Yeah. Oh yeah, completely fake. You believe everything you're seeing. It's Project Bluebeam is what they call it. But I mean, I've seen holograms where you can't tell if it's a person or not, and it's, that's the kind of technology and the ability to, to put things out there to make everybody believe. I mean, we've got former CIA guys that say that they've been working, feeding the media with stuff to just manipulate the population around the world, the populations around the world, not just the U.S., but around the globe for decades. And now you've got all these smart toys that are coming out where, you can literally have a hologram of somebody talking and you can't tell, or you can put an AI in front of someone and you don't know if it's real or not. They're saying that a lot of the technology these days on the social media platforms, you think you're talking to a real person, but it's not even a real person. And that is somebody like me right now. I could be a complete, total computer generated thing, and you would not be able to tell. I mean, you can see it in the video games when you play them. They look so real. You have to really look at it and go, I can't believe it's not real.
Are you real?
Yes, I am real.
So, okay. Now I just lost my train of thought of something I was going to. Oh, I know. You had mentioned to me when we were over in Israel about video games. Or you were talking about, I think you were telling, you spoke on both buses and to both groups of people. And I believe it was at that point, we had our own private conversations too, but that if you see it in a video game, the video games themselves are created with an intent by the government in many of the cases. And the video games themselves, if you see it, the intent is to make that become a reality.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There was a program that I was on when I was still working this is actually an open source program, so I'm not telling you about something that's not, but it's called Squad X. And I was reading the proposal because we had a bunch of really smart guys in the room, and they have the ability to really talk about things very like in a highly complicated nature. They can't really dumb it down. They're talking about all these different, this drone can do all these different things, and we're going to make it do this, and we're going to create all of these different algorithms, and it'll be able to track different, squads in the battlefield and look into buildings and everything else. And I'm listening to them talk, And of course, for me, because I was a proposal manager and running the proposal operation, I'm like, okay, I've got to put these things in, a picture is worth 1,000 words, right? I mean, it's tells a story. And so what we would do is usually the big fold out at the very beginning of a proposal would be kind of a con ops picture that was super, super illustrated, usually done through a computer. And so these guys were talking about this drone called Squad X that they were going to be designing and working with the Marine Corps on. And I said, man, what you're describing is actually it's a game. It's a video game. I played it 6 years ago called Ghost Recon, a future soldier. And they're like, what are you talking about? So I basically went to the TV and pulled up Xbox and I went and showed them the game. And they're like, that's exactly it. And so what had happened was somebody at DARPA thought, we need to go create this capability and technology. And that's how Squad X came about. It's identical. It's even got the little Google Glass goggle that the guy can flip up and look. And it's actually got target designators and all kinds of stuff going on, all because of a drone that's flying overhead and giving them, I guess, eagle eye view on everything that's going on the battlefield. It tells you friend or foe. It tells you who's in the buildings, all kinds of different stuff. And it's that technology was all driven from a game engine, and so that's really so when you're playing these video games and you see these weapons that are coming out, if they can create it in that video game, they can create it in real life, because the way the video game engines are designed today is you create that weapon and it'll actually have the same weight. It'll have the same, for how it performs within a game. Everything. I mean, it's identical. To give you an example, you look at the vehicles inside of a video game. There is a guy that's actually got the job when you're creating these things of putting dust on the lug nuts that go on the wheels, dust on the tires, water on the windshield. I mean, there's all of these game engines that they create all of this stuff, and they decide, hey, I want water on the windshield, and I want it at this percent. They do it all. But you could literally take that thing. It's a 3D model, right? I mean, if you take a weapon, you're not looking at a one-dimensional item on your screen. You're looking at something that can be flipped, turned, moved around, all kinds of different stuff, as well as fire, all kinds of different projectiles. So if they can create it in a game, they can create it in the real world, or they're going to create it in the real world. That's just kind of the direction everything is going. So a lot of these big companies like the Lockheeds, the General Dynamics, the Northrop Grumman's, the big military contractors, what they do is they hire these engineers that are gamers, because they know, or game designers. They bring them in, and that's who runs your proposal side of the house, but it's also who runs, a lot of the stuff that you're in the R&D side of the world.
Man, you are always fascinating to listen to. It's just wild. I mean, when you start thinking about these things and where we are. Okay, we got to get to questions in a minute. Get ready to send your questions. But hold off for just another minute.
Yeah.
I have so many things to ask you. We aren't going to be able to get to all of them, so we'll save them for another time. But weather modification. I want to ask you about this, because here I am. Born and raised in Southern California.
Yeah.
It doesn't rain in the winter. It just doesn't. Every once in a while you'll have a rainy season. A rainy season here is not like a rainy season in Texas. It's like, wow, it rained 3 days this winter instead of one, or something like that. Okay.
Right.
This year, since like Christmas, there's maybe a few days that have been sunny. Some people could probably pull the exact facts, but I live in it. It's been cloudy. It's been cold. It's cold every day. It's in the 30s every night, if not in the 20s. And it's just consistent. Usually you might get a week like that in the winter, and then it's back to 80 degrees, for 2, 3, 4 weeks. And it might rain, it might not. And this year's been different. It has snowed at our house, whether it be at midnight or in the day or whatever, probably twice a week in the last 3 or 4 weeks. That doesn't happen out here. We live around mountains. It all snows in the mountains. but not at our house. You know, I'm looking going, I have my jacket on all the time. I mean, I have many winters out here, I've never even needed a jacket.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's totally different. And so I mean, it's just weird. And for me, I mean, it's kind of in your face for Newsom, because Governor Newsom wants to, and the left want to, just remove all of our water and keep us in a drought. But we have all this water happening and snow happening. So anyways, take it away.
Yeah, so that's the other piece of this. When we talk about NASA, you talk about NOAA, which is those are the guys that go out and do the hurricane hunting and things like that. You may remember in California, you guys had 12 storms that came in, all rolling in one right behind the other. It was relentless. You guys had historic flooding in California. There was a ton of different things happening. Snow in the mountains. Rain down in the, on the coastlines. You had record flooding, big washouts, mudslides, all kinds of crazy stuff that was happening there in California. During that time, what you had also were the NOAA guys going out, doing some flights out over the Pacific that, and in my opinion, they were trying to, I think, kind of knock the edge off of what was coming in through various chemicals in the atmosphere or whatever it may be. I also think that they're definitely using weather warfare, right? There's somebody out there that's generating stuff. Maybe the Chinese that were getting these storms generated coming into California on a regular basis, maybe. But I've always been a little bit leery of the whole conspiracy theory of chemtrails and all the other kind of stuff. You and I've talked about that in the past. But I will tell you, I went into the database, which has got 500,000 aircraft in it, and I started tracking a company called Weather Modification LLC. Okay, and then there's another one that's SOAR, which stands for it has to do with seeding, atmospheric seeding, and I started tracking these flights, and they've been busy as ever over Texas, over California, all the way up on the south side of Alaska. And that's where I see a lot of the NOAA and the NASA aircraft up in Alaska. And I think that may be why you were seeing the snow that was coming in, because the jet stream was actually running all the way down the West Coast and then across the United States. Here in Texas, when you're getting that snow, here in Texas, we had something I've never seen before in my life. And I've been out here for 20 years in Texas. And I will tell you, we had 85-mile-an-hour straight line winds. And you could see, I mean, that's hurricane force winds coming from the storm. So whatever storm they're manipulating or messing with, they're doing a lot of damage. I mean, think about this. How often do you see major tornado outbreaks in December and January? That's usually a spring and fall kind of thing. You don't really see too many of them in the winter.
Wow, that's just nuts. So I'm looking at everything that's going on, and I know some people can become discouraged or something like this, but the reality of it is we have hope because everything is pointing to Jesus calling us home. We don't know when, but we always got to be ready, and we can be wise about these things. But I mean, everything we're talking about, you see the manipulation. We do know that the enemy, Satan himself, he wants to bring about his new world order because he wants his anointed one to sit in the temple that's going to come to Jerusalem. So we're like in this, we're like pieces on a chessboard or something. Yeah. And we're all different pieces, but we're all being moved. And ultimately, it's the Lord who does the real checkmate. He already did it at the cross. And,
absolutely.
But we can see all of this coming. So, okay, I got to get to some questions.
Sure.
And I know you're going to have questions about just what you just said about weather modification and everything else. I did see something that just went by, and it was regarding one of the things that we were talking about earlier with the Operation Paperclip. But let me get here to some questions. If you have a question, put the word question in all caps so I can read it. Okay, here we go. Ready? Okay, Monkey, have you watched, let's see, it looks, it's talking about Amir. It looks as though war is imminent. Iran has enough uranium for bombs, and there's a multitude of tunnels in the mountains in the border of Israel. I think that's one of the planes you've been tracking. So basically, do you see a war coming in Israel based on what you've been tracking?
Well, I would say, based on what I've been tracking, I would say that I think there is the possibility of Israel striking Iran. I think is probably what would be the next step, and I definitely think that's coming. You can't allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon. If I don't know, there's some say they already have it, but you just can't allow that. And so, and if they do get their hands on one, that we do know that they just fired their first missile that it was a long range. It was actually good for about 1,000 miles. So if you go from the heart of Iran to basically Jerusalem, that's a little over 1,000 miles. So they would have to, but if they're firing that missile from, to the western side of their border, they're well within range. They could hit Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, anywhere. They could hit anywhere they wanted to inside of Israel. So that's a big threat. And these guys are writing stuff on the side of the missiles, death to Israel and Hebrew, and the death to America. You have to take those threats seriously. So I would say that's probably going to be the next thing. I don't see any war. Right now, the focus is all going to be Europe and Asia. I don't think there's going to be anything going on in Israel in the immediate front, just because with the way everything's being staged, most of it is in Poland, most of it is in Japan, and so those are going to be the two main fronts, I think, when this thing breaks out.
I want to ask you about China in just a second, but with Israel, sure. I have some Israeli friends, some that you now know too, and one of them was telling me just the other day that they're thinking it's a very real possibility that Israel's going to hit a target inside Iran real soon because of everything that you just said. But I just want to caution everybody on this too with Ezekiel chapter 38, because I get that question a lot, Monkey. How, is the Ezekiel 38 chapter 38 war going to happen like next week or whatever? And I don't see it yet. There's certain things that even are described in chapter 38 of Ezekiel that Israel's not there yet. So with everything that you just said, Monkey, totally makes sense. We're looking at Europe. You have the whole Ukraine issue, Poland, which you mentioned. We have Taiwan, Japan. We have all these other dynamics. And one of the problems with Ezekiel 38 is that the Bible's very clear. That battle happens when Israel's dwelling in peace and safety, and they're dwelling securely without walls and so forth. And the word for safety there can mean security, like with IDF, but the word for peace that's used in Ezekiel 38 is a Hebrew word that literally means tranquility. It's at a time when Israel is not expecting war. It happens at a time when really everybody's getting along. And as you read the context of Ezekiel 38, the entire attack from Russia seems like a surprise. So we're definitely not there. I see other things playing out first, and I'm glad that you mentioned that because, because there's a lot of date setting, and this is going to happen next week, and that's going to happen next week. I want to get to the question about China that I have in a minute, but somebody else asked me on here just a minute ago about digital currency. Do you have any idea when you see that being rolled out, or your thoughts on it?
That cannot be too far off. We see countries, India just rolled out theirs as a test, as a beta in the last couple months, 3 months or so that they're running. India is a big it's a big country to begin with, but it's a big economy. I don't know. I'm not a big, in terms of depth and knowledge, I don't really know a lot about the whole, digital currency thing, other than it sure does seem like it can't be far off. When you start watching your supply chain issues get very weak. When you start talking about war on the horizon, those are kind of things that typically would go hand in hand, right? They say war is an economy. Many a war has been started to get themselves out of a bad economic position. So, this is, I think we're ripe for the picking. I say that, for a digital currency.
Mm-hmm. So we look at things, not everybody's ready to go on board with digital currency, but what do you do if you have a crisis that happens? Yeah. People will get on board when all of a sudden you can't get food. I mean, you put a squeeze on the food. I mean, how did countries and nations and militaries throughout the centuries go back ancient history? What did they do? You do the siege on the city. You cut off food. You cut off water. Guess what? You start doing these things. You cut off the supply chain. And what do? You get the people on the inside to comply.
Yeah, absolutely. And, if you're already lean and you go to war, you start having to do war provisions, right? Where, people are only going to be allocated so much gasoline, so much food, or two loaves of bread per household or whatever it may be. But you have to ration everything. And so one of the ways that you would, you'd have to control it, and it's going to have to be, they have to have a means to do that. We don't really have a mechanism for, 340 million people in the United States to go out there. It'd be almost like you had to have everybody had a card that said, this is how we're going to keep tabs of everybody. Right. I mean, I don't know how they're going to do it. But it's coming. So it'd be that beast system. It's the only thing that you can think of that would really kind of fit right in the wheelhousing of this whole thing. So,
oh yeah, what I see developing, and I can't remember. It was a quote that I can't remember if it was Britt Gillette or Damon Duck or whoever it was. That right now what we're watching is a basket of digital currencies. You mentioned India. We know there's over 100 countries now that are in the process of, hey, we're working toward it. But ultimately, it's going to come down to one. Maybe a basket, and then it will be narrowed down to 10 that are chosen. What a quinky dink that would be. But ultimately, there's going to be one at the top that's going to be controlling everything, because it has to, in order for that system to be able to work out the way that the Bible tells it's going to, which also gives us that hope and that encouragement that everything is just going the way, hey, this is what the Bible said. So don't be too surprised, and certainly don't be afraid of these things. Might be a little rough on us in the meantime, but that's okay.
Yeah. I mean, reality look at the Euphrates is starting to dry up. So, that's Revelation 16, but it is at the early stages of drying up. I mean, I just saw something in Syria that said they were 30 centimeters away from basically having no water coming through the dam. So 30 centimeters is not much, right?
Much.
So
that is not much.
So yeah. So that when that happens, they lose power in that region. And then, of course, that feeds the Euphrates River. And you can already go into Iraq and you can see that there are major, major high grounds where there's no water in the Euphrates. So
that'd be great to have you back on to talk about that, too. What do you see? We're almost out of time. I know everybody would love to have you on longer, but I don't want you to get sick because you were with me again. I don't want to be the common denominator.
Yeah.
What do you see the state of the U.S. military morale, recruitment? Everything I read, it doesn't show that we're in a good position.
Yeah, we're not. Actually, I was just looking at something that came out on military.com in my last sit rep, and that had to do with the fact that, the Department of Defense was looking at their readiness, and they said they had, it was some astronomical number of recruits that they wouldn't be eligible. Like if you look at the ages 18 to 24, the numbers were super high of people that would not qualify without a waiver to even serve the military. So that would be things like whether it's overweight, out of condition, out of shape, which, if you're 18 to 24, they can whip you into shape pretty quickly. But overweight, drug and alcohol use, and then the other was mental health issues. And it was a very large swath of people that would not be able to do military service at all because of those three conditions. So that's one of the big things. And so, if there's a draft, the good news is that we now know how to keep your kid out of the military, and that is, get them lightly medicated so they can't join the military. If they don't have any other kind of condition, like a heart condition or something, flat feet, whatever it may be. But that's the first aspect. The other piece too is we're running pretty lean. I will tell you, I'm tracking the flights that are going over to Europe and to Asia. And I will say there's a lot of people being deployed. I'm actually surprised my followers haven't been telling me more about family members getting deployed, because they are sending a lot more than what we originally talked about from a NATO perspective, right? It was 300,000 for NATO in Europe, and 100,000 of that was going to be U.S. troops, because we were going to be the brunt of it, the lion's share. And based on the flights that I'm seeing a significant uptick in both equipment and troops going abroad right now. So I'd say we're going to go well past that 100,000 number. And if war kicks off, that means you're going to have a draft coming pretty quickly.
That's troubling me. Both you and me, we both have young men
kids
that are our kids.
Yeah, young men.
And it's like that's very disturbing. Then you have a guy like Zelensky who says Americans are going to have to send their children to die for Ukraine.
Yes.
These things are disturbing. Come quickly, Lord Jesus. I shared with you an email, can't mention any names, a few weeks ago from a guy just about his kid, looking, going, man, everybody, we really need to be praying but be steadfast in our faith in the Lord Jesus Christ. So this is just a reminder for me, Monkey, about the need that I have to pour in the truth of Jesus to every young person that I know. Not in a weird way, but to understand, look, don't lose all hope if you're in Christ. No matter what, we're going to live forever in the presence of the Lord, but we really need to strengthen one another right now. Monkey, we're thank you for joining me. It's 2:47. Hey, listen, everybody, Monkey has a store. Pretty much all of you already know him, but go there, check out his store anyways. There's really cool stuff. By the way, when I was in Florida, I think I sent you a couple of pictures. I know Steve did too, and there are a few people there a few ladies who had your pashminas that they were getting from your
scarves.
Those scarves, pashminas. It was totally cool, and you have a lot of fans in Florida. I know that. And
for sure. And those scarves, I just got a whole bunch of them in, and so I'm still loading some of them in inventory. But I found a supplier when we were over there through my guy that does all my olive wood stuff, and I was able to get a ton of those scarves. They're beautiful scarves, absolutely stunning. So so I got those in stock. I'm pretty excited. And what's crazy is I've just started a new line of spa stuff, and I haven't loaded them yet in. But I've got a mineral foot soak that I have. It's peppermint that just came in today. So my entire shop smells like peppermint. So I'll probably be blind when I start to break the seal on stuff and get all my jars filled. But it's cool. I'm really excited. I got a lot of cool things coming.
That's cool. That's exciting. Maybe I can get some of that peppermint stuff so my feet won't stink.
Yeah, man. I'll send it to you.
Hey, that's cool. All right. Hey, thank you for joining me. Hey, can you hang on for a minute right before we go off? We got to ask you something real quick.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, everybody, for joining me. Listen, Thursday, I've got Wednesday at 2 o'clock. I'll be live by myself. Love to have you join me on the app and on the website. And also Thursday, I have a midweek update coming. I think you'll be greatly encouraged. And a lot of things are coming up. We'll be talking to y'all later. Thanks for joining us.